ladies, gentlemen, and others. I'm Father Duke 9000, and I'm here with another video. But today we're going to tackle something a little bit different from usual and a bit more topical. As you might have guessed from the title, this video is going to discuss the recent controversy of Let's Players, reviewers, and other sorts of YouTube gaming-related content creators, and as to whether or not the money they make from ad revenue should go towards gaming publishers. Ever since the controversy provoked near the end of last year, where copyright infringement laws became much stricter in their treatment of YouTube channels that happen to use video game footage in their works, be they reviews, opinion pieces, countdowns, or the titular Let's Plays, and even before that, the internet has been set aflame with discussions regarding the whole matter on several levels, and once again, the debate's been sparked up by the publicly maligned creator of Fez, Phil Fish, coming out on Twitter and declaring that anyone who posts up full videos of his game are basically stealing it. Now, is this true? Well, that's what we're here to find out. On a legal level, a personal level, an ethical level, and beyond, the question does have to be asked and subsequently answered. Do gaming publishers deserve even a small cut of the ad revenue made from Let's Players videos? And I'll give my answer almost immediately: no. I'll admit that it's a complex debate with many different viewpoints and perspectives to consider, and that this video might not explain everything in a simple, concise manner as I'd like it to be, but I'm gonna bloody well try and explain my reasoning for why the idea is just so abhorrently disgusting. For starters, the idea of copyright law is something that has become hugely redundant in the years that have passed since its initial creation. Made during a time when the idea of the internet as it is today and free information being available to a large number of people only seemed like the stuff of sci-fi fantasies, copyright law now exists as an outdated ideal that only really serves giant publishers or vindictive old men who would rather sit on the creations of others than do something interesting with it. How can we forget when King.com of Candy Crush Saga fame threatened to take down the Banner Saga, an epic strategy game with movie-style animation that took years and years to make simply for having the word Saga in the title, or the time Bethesda were forced by ZeniMax Media to sue Mojang of Minecraft fame just because their next project was named Scrolls. And of course, there's our favorite of them all, Tim Langdell, the founder and chief executive of Edge Games. Remember, that cheeky git who threatened to take anyone who happened to use the word Edge in their game to court, despite the fact that he himself had made bugger all with his company in the 20 to 30 years that it existed. All of this, and many, many more idiotic situations, perfectly encapsulate why copyright laws need to be changed on an enormous scale to suit the new world that's passed it by since its last update, which was roughly in the 80s as far as I know. In addition, keep in mind the fact that while you might be able to get away with calling full uploads of movies or cartoons to be some form of infringement, which Fish himself used as an analogy to further emphasize his point, the same cannot be said for video games since they are interactive by their very nature. Unless the walkthrough is of a David Cage game or an extremely linear visual novel that consists of nothing but a stream of cutscenes, there is literally no way to perfectly replicate the experience of the game in question into video form. If I watch a gameplay video of, let's say, Conker's Bad Fur Day, I get an idea of what the gameplay story is like, but that's it, just an idea. I don't know if the controls work well, if the difficulty is fairly balanced, or if the game is even any fun. But that's what the likes of reviews or Let's Plays are for, to let us know whether or not the product we're looking at in question is worth spending our finite time and money on. That's certainly why I've been reviewing games for the last 3.5 years, to inform whoever stumbles upon my work as to the quality of a game. And no, I may not be into the whole Let's Play genre, but I'm not going to condemn it like some kind of elitist snob like certain gaming journalists or bloggers have been doing lately. I don't watch PewDiePie's videos, I'll make that exceptionally clear. But if he does get to make $4 million a year simply for doing what he loves, I have absolutely no problem with that in the slightest. Why should publishers like Nintendo, Sega, or Square Enix have to take away that right simply because he uses video footage vital to the entertainment value of his work? If I suddenly got kicked in the nuts the next day for not following standards that were hundreds of years out of date, I'd be understandably pissed and filled with a desire to see the bastards lynched for their stupidity. Oh, and let's not even get into the sheer, utter hypocrisy of the gaming industry and their actions on both sides of the market. Firstly, journalists and bloggers, as I've mentioned earlier, have been having a go at YouTube reviewers and Let's Players for no more than just taking assets and using them to their own means. Isn't that what you guys do as well? You use screenshots of the game and rewrite press releases in your own words. We use footage recorded from the game, sometimes even supplied by the publishers themselves, and discuss announcements through opinion vids or rants. They're simply just different methods that still achieve the same result. Nothing wrong with that as far as I can see. Frankly, it just seems more like snobby elitists getting uppity over young whippersnappers joining in on the debate simply because they are young whippersnappers. If you're that kind of ignorant git who thinks such an opinion, I would actually prefer it if you just straight up told me as such. At least then I'd still have some ounce of respect for you given your honesty. And you may have noticed the fact that the publishers themselves give out viral footage to be used in videos or discussions and the like because they're aware enough of the nature of viral marketing. I say aware enough since they're clearly clueless to the fact that, hey, other kinds of footage can be utilized to the same effect and promote their game. How else did projects like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Slender, and countless other indie hits become hits? By sacrificing versions to the gods? Also, can we please discourage the idea that watching a video, playing a demo, or downloading a torrent equals a lost sale for any game, movie, show, or whatever? There is absolutely no guarantee that the person doing any of those things would have bought the thing in the first place, and besides, if we're not allowed to experience the product for ourselves, why should we even think about getting it? As someone who doesn't have a lot of general income, I have to rely on demos, leaks, and the like to see whether or not it's worth buying a product. I could talk about the countless wonderful games I've purchased simply because I hugely enjoyed their demos or downloaded ROMs till the end of time. I've bought many things related to shows or movies that I first watched on YouTube. Heck, I wouldn't even gotten into retro gaming or reviewing if it weren't for the likes of GexUp or Scottish Duck 17 making videos about games from days gone by. Is that really what you want to do, gaming industry? Take away the right for people to see things for themselves just because you don't understand how it could be used to its fullest potential. In fact, that's how Let's Players and other YouTube gaming related content creators should be treated as potential, not problems. There are many developers who have used this to their advantage because they do understand how it can be used in favor of selling their products. You're too damn greedy to see otherwise. In fact, why don't I wrap things up on that final point? Before I go, consider this. The gaming industry. An industry that acts like many of the world's countries aren't going through a pretty rough economic recession at the moment. An industry that spends millions upon billions of dollars on games to such an extent that they need to sell an insane number of copies to just break even. An industry that charges games at stupid amounts of money in addition to all the content they remove from those games to sell for extra cash as DLC. An industry where nobody has a problem with the fact that Activision is spending half a shitting $1 billion to develop and advertise Destiny is asking content creators to give them most of their ad revenue money. Am I the only one who finds it completely fucked up how an industry that's filled to the brim with cash and seems perfectly willing to spend budgets that could be used to fund micronations on video games also wants to take a large majority of content creators' livelihoods because the people in charge of the industry can't manage money properly? If you are part of the gaming industry and you want to earn money from the works of people who have already bought your game, giving you more cash from $60 than whatever the ad revenue will earn you, I only have one thing to say to you. How dare you? How dare you act so petty, infantile, and reckless towards people who are willing to spend their own time and resources to talk about your games just because that somehow means you lose sales in your idiotic line of what could barely be considered logic? How dare you insult the intelligence of your audience by claiming poverty is an excuse despite the fact that you've got 1 billion sponsors or more than enough cash that you could likely set up your own goddamn continent? And how fucking dare you try to claim yet another scapegoat as the reason the industry's falling down the drain when the fact remains that every single problem that exists today is squarely on your own heads. Overspending budgets, falling sales, homogenized games, constantly angry gamers, franchises getting slaughtered in the name of appealing to the Call of Duty audience, overhyping your own products and setting fans up for a disappointment, churning out sequels until people can't stand them anymore. All of this and beyond is your own fault, gaming industry, and you need to face that reality so you can attempt to fix it. If you refuse to do so and continue to make mistakes again and again in the hope of pleasing everyone like some kind of fear-stricken, self-conscious teenager, I have no sympathy for you in the slightest. This crusade against YouTube content creators getting any amount of money without your express approval is only the latest attempt to try to distract people from the fact that you're at the end of your rope, and it's not working anymore. People wise up to the fact that you were trying to destroy used games through an illogical DRMified Xbox One and counterattacked to such a staggering degree that you had to change the system in so many ways that it's actually hilarious. They're sick of playing the same old shooters with the same old bald white men and are making that exceptionally clear. And I bet you that something is going to happen with this debate as well if it isn't already happening. You have the opportunity to stop what you're doing and to genuinely try and improve the state of the gaming industry, and ceasing this boneheaded battle against people like PewDiePie or Angry Joe can be the start of it. And if you choose not to, Well, I won't be surprised in the slightest if the AAA industry really does come to a harrowing collapse, seeing how it's currently being run by nothing more than a pile of self-righteous, hypocritical, irrational, gluttonous children. No, I'm not even going to apply the term man-children in this case, because that would imply that in some way they would have grown past the idea that women have cooties and should be excluded from their boys-only club, or that they can do the same thing over and over again to everybody without it losing its effect. They would have realized they need to take responsibility for their own actions and not pass the blame on to others, that they can't please everyone and try to find their own comfortable niche that will make them happy. You, heads of the modern gaming industry, have not grown up, and this whole debate is symbolic of that fact. If you decide not to grow up, fine. You either do or you don't. But when your latest bastardization of a classic franchise made to appeal to an audience that simply isn't interested burns to the ground despite selling 10 million copies thanks to over budgeting, you will have no sympathy from me. Nor will you have anybody else to blame. Not anymore.